Welcome to the AtoZrunning podcast, where we help runners thrive. I'm Andy.
And I am Zach, and up next, U.S. champion record holder Fernando Cabada discusses battling the competitive urge and finding worth. And after that, World of Running updates about Bislett Games, high school nationals, and more. Welcome back. We've got an excellent series of contents, series of ideas for you this week on the show. Beginning with, and most inspiringly amongst them, a conversation with Fernando Cabada, who has been a figure in our running experiences personally for some years, being that he was like a legend when we were in college, and everybody was talking about this guy. And so many years later, we finally have a chance to talk with him and get some of his story, and it's good. It's good. So you should look forward to that. Amongst the other things, like crazy awesome running news, as always is the case, it seems, these days. More good things to talk about. But chiefly among the good things we like to talk about in general are your questions. And we're going to be doing that next week. And so you need to make sure that you submit, if you haven't yet, submit a question, share your thoughts. I know some of you have some questions to share because you literally told me that in person recently. Yes, I'm talking to you. You know who you are. So you need to submit them. Otherwise, we can't cover them on air. So do that and do it in a timely manner because it's going to happen next week. Go to AtoZrunning.com/question to share anytime, any number of questions, and we'll do our best to answer them on air.
I had a chance at the LPGA 5K to connect with some previous podcast guests who've become friends, and that was Team Agar, Johnny and Jeff, and Becky. So the family was there. So that was a really great time of connecting with them. And that leads me to the next thing, which is Johnny is co-directing a race this week on Friday. So if you want to hop in a 5K on
It
Friday,
is a 5K.
That's the tongue twister, 5K on Friday. That'd be a great one to jump into.
Especially because we'll be there.
We'll be there. Yep.
At a minimum, I'll be running as well.
Yep.
It's going to be loads of fun.
And I do want to congratulate Johnny and Jeff on a recent CBS feature where Peyton Manning invited them to the World Championships.
Peyton Manning?
The Ironman World Championships. Because
What does Peyton Manning have to do with Ironman?
made it special.
Okay, all right.
Made it special. It was really cool. So congratulations to them on that feature and then that invitation to remember. Johnny recently wrote a book with his mom, Becky, The Impossible Mile, which is super inspiring. So if you want to know more about Johnny and Jeff, you can go back and listen to that episode. You can get the book. You can find them online at amazing places like, CBS News. They're pretty famous. So if you want to check them out, it's a father-son duo team, and they have really accomplished some incredible things together.
So once again, that race, if you're in the West Michigan area, is Friday, June 23 at 7 p.m. There's nothing quite like night races or evening races, I guess you could call it. They're the best. It's loads of fun.
And very rare.
In fact, uncommon. So we'll be there. We look forward to seeing you there as well. And in the meantime, hearing your questions or seeing them and reading them when you submit them at AtoZrunning.com/question. So with all of that in mind, we've got some great content for you here today. So let's get right on to it.
As mentioned, this week on the podcast, we have an incredible guest, Fernando Cabada. He's an accomplished American professional runner, U.S. champion, U.S. record holder, and coach at Cabada Training Systems. He's had a really long, amazing career. In 2021, Cabada was third overall at the USATF 50K Championships and broke the U.S. Masters record in the distance. And he will be representing Team USA at the 50K World Championships this fall, which is awesome. So he's been on Team USA before, but it's been a few years. This is really exciting. And he has had exceptional personal best times, including a 5,000 meter time of 13:34, 10,000 meter personal best time of 28:25, and half marathon time of 1:02 flat. So he's proven among an exceptional talent in long distance running. And throughout his career, he's had so many different milestones and accolades. And we won't be able to get through them all here today, but I will have a list on our website. It is an amazing list. It includes things like the 2006 USATF 25K champion in Grand Rapids. He did that, like I said, in 2006, and he then had broken the 25K American record with 1:14:21. He represented Team USA in 2007 at the World Championships as part of the marathon team in Japan. And his accomplishments keep on going. He has been the 2008 USATF marathon champion, and he was recognized that year as the USATF Men's Long Distance Runner of the Year. He secured the title of the 2022 USATF Colorado Runner of the Year in long distance running as a Masters. He also set records as a Masters in the 50K, as I mentioned previously, and the 25K and the 30K Masters records, which he achieved in 2023. Fernando's passion for running exceeds beyond his personal achievements. As a coach, Cabada Training Systems, he shares his expertise and helps aspiring athletes reach their full potential. With his dedication and remarkable accomplishments, Fernando Cabada continues to inspire and leave a lasting impact on the world of long-distance running. And I certainly was impacted by this conversation with him. He digs into his life with its highs and lows. And what started as a conversation about competitive nature turned into a powerful conversation of how running doesn't define your worth and competition cannot completely complete you. He talks about the two wolves in yourself that you feed. So tune in to find out what that means.
Oh, you're not going to tell us. Oh.
I gotta
You're
leave.
feeding the wolves.
There's
All
a
right.
great
Gotta leave
conversation.
some kind of mystery. For
yes.
them.
Well, it's an amazing conversation with so much that we talked about. Let's get on to our conversation with Fernando Cabada. Hi, Fernando. Welcome to the AtoZrunning podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you were able to make this work as a professional runner and as a coach. You have a lot going on. So thank you for spending this time with me here today, talking about competitive nature and how you've had it for such a long time and how it's developed and morphed and transformed. And we're excited to dive into that today. So Fernando, we're just going to hop right in. Can you tell us about your early years, and can you tell us how your competitive nature began?
Okay, yeah. This is the first time I'm doing a podcast in about 4 years. This is probably the third time ever doing any type of podcast. And, I haven't done that many interviews. I kind of told myself, no more interviews. I'm just going to do this thing. But now, why I run is to reach people who, might be going through a tough time. And, I always share my story solely to be able to help people, motivate people to have a better life or, find motivation to keep going forward. Start from the beginning. I'm 41 years old, born in April of 82, Fresno, California, Southeast Fresno. That's in the Central Valley of California between LA and San Francisco. I started rough beginnings, parents, 8th and 9th grade education, not many opportunities, had a father in and out of prison, really bad drug habit. Therefore, short-tempered person. So I was raised by somebody that, was always on me and whenever he was out of prison and really hard on me. I got abused a lot when I was young, got hit if I didn't find that guy cigarettes in 10 seconds, literally. And so I developed anxiety, social anxiety and stuff. So when I was in 3rd grade was the first time that, and by this point I moved out of Fresno, and I went to a suburb or the next town over, Clovis, California, which is a really good place to live. Really grateful for that. In 3rd grade, I ran a PE run, right? It was like 2 laps around a track that we called 400 meters, but it was just like a dirt line. And I was around 30 kids and I ran for the first time and I got 2nd place. And that was the first time that I felt like happy, like I was a somebody. And that's how I started running. In 4th grade, they offered cross country, and then, 5th and 6th grade kept going all the way, and everything kind of grew from there. So that's how I started running. Yeah.
Yeah, even as a young person, did you find that having that community of running was special for you? Like you were able to make connections with others? Did that help with your social anxiety?
Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, it's not so much that we're trying to make friends. I think you just want to feel like validate yourself that you're somebody. Yeah. I felt like I was scared of everything. I grew up around a lot of people, who glorified gangs and want to be a gang member and stuff. And, and I went down that route, but never something serious. Yeah. But I grew up with a huge family. I have like 35 first cousins. And so we all grew up and they all stayed, basically most of them stayed in Fresno and Southeast Fresno. So they all went down a rougher route. But just being a Hispanic in that area, that's what we glorify. And that's kind of what my focus was, more than just running. But running made me feel like a somebody. And that's all I cared about, was feeling like a somebody, feeling like I mattered. Because I think I was, tormented a lot, that I felt like I had no self-worth whatsoever. And running just made me feel that. And probably could have had more friends growing up, a lot of good friends too. But for whatever reason, that's not what was important to me. But obviously, yeah, over the while, yeah, I got known and stuff like that, and that was important. But I really was always like a loner. People might beg to differ if they watch this and like, no, you had plenty of friends. But I think even now, I feel like I'm a loner. I've always just been alone in this world and amongst people, but I feel like I've only been able to connect with so many people in this world. And I feel like I've only been heard, so much. So I'm just kind of out here amongst millions and millions of people, so yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you would say that, like it wasn't to be known, but you did become known. And I'm just going to interject a little bit because I went to an NAIA school and you were just previous to me as far as years of school, right? So my team at Cornerstone University all knew and would talk about you and how well you ran. And I think, was it 7-time NAIA national champion?
Yeah, a few of those are relays, but yeah, I did win that. So yeah, that was an awesome time. That's a cool story too.
Yeah. Well, maybe before that story, we should talk about high school, because you are one of the fastest in the country in high school. So as you develop, you find that running is something that you feel yourself, and you feel like you're able to validate this feeling that you have of being seen and known in a way, right? And how did that change, or did it grow into high school?
Okay. So one of my goals growing up, when I was in junior high and high school, was to be number one in my school. I promise you, that's all I cared about. Was I just want to say I'm the fastest guy in this school. I would end up going to Buchanan High School, which, if I say Buchanan High School, they are like national recognized school. I mean, when I went there, we barely had our first graduating class. So this is very young. So I entered high school like in 1996 or something like that. I was never number one on my team, even when I started running when I was nine years old. Fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, junior high, I was never number one. I was always like second best, third best. So I still had that fire in me. I would go and lay down, after school and just daydream like for hours about how I'm going to win this race, how I'm going to like go to the Olympics. All this stuff, not even being close to being that level. And I just dreamed it, I didn't know what it was to be a professional runner. I don't think we really had that in the 90s like that. We didn't have the internet like that. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that I daydreamed all the time, all day, every day, just about being great. And, when I go into reality, I was nowhere near that. So when I entered Buchanan High School, breaking 18 minutes for a 5K, I think the school record was 9:55. And then my freshman year, I was 9:59 or 9:58. And, sophomore year, and this is 3,200, right under 2 miles, I was 9:26. And then in 1999 is when I became nationally recognized. And to this point, I was never number one, okay? Never number one in my school, not in the conference, nothing like that, right? No championships. My junior year, I would run every day with my team. We made a pact with ourselves saying, hey, we're all going to run 6 miles a day. And to us, we didn't know that that wasn't that much, but we just ran 6 miles a day every day in the summer. I would run. That's when I was nationally recognized as a junior in high school. I ran 8:59 in the 2 mile. First in my school, finally, school record. Conference, regionals, or whatever you guys call it. We would call it the Valley Championships. Then I was like all state. I never put it together at state. Yeah, it was pretty cool because, you know, from one summer to the next, I would grow into almost 6 feet tall. You know, I was really short. Even going into high school, I was barely 5 foot. I would leave high school, you know, 6 foot or 6'1" or whatever. And yeah, it was just something that happened really quick. By this point, I was pretty much a straight edge kid. I didn't drink in high school. I didn't do anything stupid. I always hung around people probably that was probably not the smartest, but I grew up with them and they're like my brothers. And so I always like never forgot about people who grew up with me. And I was just into running, you know, that's all I cared about. I knew that's what I wanted. And, you know, it's pretty big coming, you know, because I grew up on welfare up until I was like a senior in high school. You know, I got free lunch. I didn't use the free lunch because I went to like a richer school and I didn't want everybody to know that I was that poor. So I would skip it sometimes and wouldn't eat lunch, which I think that was unfortunate, but I did that and I cared that much. But, you know, you're in high school, you know, you get embarrassed. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool having the, you know, colleges come and recruit me and stuff. And, you know, I got all the letters still. I didn't even really open them. I started opening them up like 3 years ago and I started reading the letters for the first time, but I knew that I wanted to go like places like Stanford, the University of Arkansas. That's what I wanted. I wanted the best. And then, yeah, I had that chance. I got to go to the best. I actually got a scholarship to the University of Arkansas.
Okay.
So, you know, by this point, they think they had like 40 something national championships. You know, it was just a dream that they wanted me. Yeah, that Coach John McDonald, the late Coach John McDonald, like wanted me. And yeah, no, it was pretty cool. I mean, I could go into some heavy stuff that would probably inspire a lot of people and a lot of kids, especially. But yeah, no, it wasn't. It was definitely a bumpy ride at the University of Arkansas. You know, I went there for 2 years. You know, but got heavily into drinking. You know, I think in high school, I never went to parties, but all of a sudden now everybody's going to parties on the weekends. The school was badass. The guys, everything, our mentality was just so different, man. It was just crazy. Everyone partied like crazy on the weekends. And someone like me, like, I never really liked drinking and stuff like that. But then once I was there and I went to these parties, I felt so uncomfortable. I just kept getting drunk until like I was blacked out, as sad as that sounds, but that's kind of what I did. That's kind of what happened. And I can't say that it was my drinking that drove me away. What more of it was again, I wasn't good enough. My sophomore year, I got 70th at the national championship. I was 19 years old. We won. We're going for our third in a row championship. So I think in 99 they won, 2000 they won men's NCAA Division I cross country championships, and in 2001 we were trying to go for our third P, and I kind of blamed myself because I was the fifth man. I was 70th at the NCAA championships, and I was like, dude, I'm a loser. All the, you know, everything that I had to grow up with, all that came back, and I'm like, dude, I'm just a loser, and you know, I'm worthless and everything. And I let that get to me, but I improved like every race by a minute, and I was on the right track. It's just over there, they needed people now. They didn't need me to develop like a year from now. They needed me. I took that very hard. I got good grades. I was always smart. I didn't know that. I just never gave myself credit. I didn't have the confidence in school. And so I left Arkansas. And a lot of crazy stuff happened, and people might have thought that I got kicked out and stuff, but I didn't. As I would leave, go to California, to Fresno State, and I ended up just getting involved with a lot of bad things. And it's stuff that I'm not going to get into. But it's just, you're 20 years old. I went back to my friends and I got to see a lot of dark things, experienced a lot of dark things. And I remember I would be up, the sun would be coming up, driving home, and I'd see like kids like with backpacks on. And I'm like, I would do anything just to be in their shoes, stressing about a test, stressing about like college life, instead of being in this world that I'm in right now, looking over my shoulder, hoping that the wrong people, the people don't see me and, try to hurt me or something. And I'm just like, dude, this isn't, I had some crazy idea, brought a couple of my friends and said, let's drive to Arkansas. Drove to Arkansas, and this is about 6 months after leaving. So this is the end of like 2002 or something like that. I think I left like in the summer of 2002 from Arkansas after 4 full semesters. And my friends at Arkansas, they saw me. They say, Fernando, dude, you do not look good. You need to come back. You need to come back to school. You got to come back here. And I got in trouble with the law for the first time when I was in Arkansas. I got a DUI. I was like, I was not even 21 yet. I was 20 still. At the same time, I'm asking Coach McDonald if he wants me on the team, and they just found out as I was visiting, I got a DUI in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and this was like 2002, 2003, and he let me back in, and that is something that, like, that meant so much, like when everyone's saying, dude, kid's like worthless, he's going to bring you guys down. The fact that man had everything to lose, reputation and everything, but he still like, like protected me. And he says, Fernando, I never wanted you to leave. And I got to come back. And yeah, that was awesome. And I didn't really realize how awesome that was till like years and years later, what he just did. He didn't have to do that. He has national championship program. So I went all the way back to Arkansas, dropped my friends off, went all the way back to school. I started working at some department store, went back, getting good grades again, everything going good, running with the team back at Arkansas. Wow. I remember we won, I think, like outdoor nationals or indoor nationals, as I was in time to get my ring. Or I think they gave us the ring for the year before. I forgot what, but I got a national championship ring. I was like, oh, wow, I got to wear this ring. So yeah, no, I was there for 6 months or so, or 9 months, because I went to summer school and finally going to compete, but I wasn't on any scholarship. I mean, this was all loans, and I was out of state, and I couldn't afford it. So I left once again. Yeah. This time, I'm 21, summer of 2003. And I'm like, dude, I'm over. No more running, no more nothing. Yeah. That ain't for me. It's over. I'll go back to California. And it wasn't so dramatic this time. I kind of said, dude, this is where I got to live. I started working in construction, laying top. No, it was a tile company, but I was like a tile helper, making like $8 an hour, working on rich people's places. I'll just be looking like, man, this is cool. I was doing that all year. And then at the end of the year, again, I was like, dude, this isn't for me. Like, I know there's something still left in me. By this point, I was still living off high school running 8:59 as a junior. I never really did anything in college. I did all right. I made the world championships for the junior world championships, 19 and under, back like in 2000. But that was all I ever did. I didn't really have anything to go off of. So one day in December at the end of 2003, I looked up, I said, look, I can't go D1 because I went Arkansas, Fresno, but Fresno lost their track program or cross country program due to Title IX. So that's the reason why I got to go back to Arkansas. But I already transferred a couple of times, and I only have so much eligibility left. I said, I think somebody was talking about NAIA, a friend of mine, Corey Duquette. He says, dude, come to NAIA. I'm like, dude, what's that? To be honest, if it wasn't D1 and I just came from Arkansas, everybody else is like Mickey Mouse to me. I'm like, dude, I ain't going. But at this point, I was desperate. I said, dude, I just want to go back to school. And so I ended up Googling, NAIA cross country national champions. Whoever that is, I'm going there. And it said, Minot, North Dakota. I'm like, North Dakota. I said, that's like cold there. So anyways, long story short, I get connected with Scott Simmons. And he said, after a couple conversations within a week, he says, hey, so yeah, we want you here in the spring. I guess the rule in NAIA was, as long as it's all about full-time semesters, however, how many full-time semesters you've done, you have like 10 semesters to do whatever. I forgot how it went. And so it turned out that I had like 1 year of eligibility in cross country and like 2 years in track, indoor and outdoor. He wanted me. I went to Arkansas. I would be there for a semester. Guess what? He changed jobs. He went to a school called Virginia Intermont. Summer of 2003, because I got there in January 2003. So in the summer of 2003, or maybe it's 2004 now, I'm sorry. I go to Virginia, and then it was all game over. Okay, so summer of 2003 or 2004, I would lead my team that fall. I got third in NAIA National Championships in Louisville, Kentucky. We won NAIA National Cross Country Championships. So I led my team, got third. And then indoor for the next, couple of years, I won, 7 national championships. And, in 2006, I signed my first professional contract with Reebok. I would debut in a marathon in 2:12:27, and I broke the American record in the 25K in 1:14:21, Grand Rapids, Michigan, May of 2006. So, after about 2 years of making up my mind and getting back, getting on that train in January of 2004, 2 years, I mean, my life was completely changed. After all the heartaches, after all the mess ups, after the arrests, everything, it was crazy. And so, yeah, that brings us to the, college and entering in the professional world.
Yeah. So a lot of our listeners, just by happenstance, because we're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, are familiar with when you got the record. I think you won twice, right? The 25K.
Yeah. So 2006, I won. And then, yeah, I would come back, 2007, 2008, 2009, and Brian Sell from the Hansons would beat up on me. And, I would get like second place and, solid finishes, second or third. 2009 was pretty rough for me. I took 2010 off, and it was really cool to come back in 2011 and win the national championship again. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So you just told us like such a powerful story, your story, and how you navigated with running and with life. And would you call it redemption? Would you call it grace? Would you call it a transformation? What was there that, or was it just a continual growth towards something better?
Going through everything that I went through, how dark, that everything I was going through, and anybody who's in the dark, and if they had an opportunity, because you got to remember, a lot of us live in regret. And there's some people out there that says, man, I would do anything just to have that opportunity. And I think that's what happened to me once I found, and it's a lot about energy. Yeah. We're like in a spiritual battle in this world, and there's going to be things that are thrown at us in this life that's going to try to paralyze us, confuse us, distract us. Yeah. And it was just people helping me and believing in me and giving me a chance, and me getting an opportunity. And there's just something in me that just won't give up, that won't let me be defined by action, something greater and something really strong and beautiful inside me. And, I'm just like any other man. And, I'm just capable of anything. Yeah. And there's, that old saying, I think you would hear that there's like, 2 wolves or something in us, one good and bad, and who wins is the one you feed, right? And definitely, I just got inspired, getting help, even back in high school, the transitioning on it, the identity issue. I'm like, well, who am I? What am I? What group do I belong to? Who do, stuff like that. I was never just like, hey, I'm just Fernando. Yeah. now that's how I am. It's like, dude, I'm not with anybody. I'm just me. I'm on my own, side. Not really worried about being accepted by this or that, right? Just because, everything I've been through, of course, and that's how it is when you get older. But when I'm younger, I was in a battle, and I just had a lot of good people who fought for me to try to stay on the right road, and I did not realize the battles I was going through as much as they did at the time. And I'm just so grateful for, all my coaches, Brian Weaver and Marty Simpson at Buchanan and Clovis, California, what they did for me when I was young. And they used to pull me in, and lunchtime, I wasn't allowed to hang out with my friends because, they weren't doing too well. They're about to go to continuation school and get kicked out of school. And they did so much where I resented them, but they did it for me. They, when I was almost getting kicked out of school, they fought for me to stay in there, right? And stuff like that. Coaches, they have just saved me. And so, yeah, John McDonald, Scott Simmons give me a chance. Obviously in the NAIA, people, once they knew Scott Simmons was giving me a chance, of course, coach is going to call him, hey, Fernando, this, and this, fights, this, and this, a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, crazy. He told me, he said, look, Fernando, I know about it all. He says, but I just feel that there's something special in you. And, I believe in you. And that's inspiring, He would tell me stories. I hated that he told me these stories. He says, man, Fernando, and this is when I didn't have anything, right? He said, I already envision you. You're going to be racing in Europe. You're going to do this. And I'm thinking, dude, why do you tell me these stories? Like, why do you get my hopes up like that? Yeah. Why do you do that to me? And because I've been let down a lot, right? And he believed in me when I couldn't even really fathom that. And it was true. It all became true.
Wow. That is really super powerful. And when you say it became true, you want to tell us about that too? That kind of brings you to the next spot in your story.
You go through it. I mean, there's so much to go through with my freshman career. I mean, you get your first contract and you're starting to race. And, I went to Europe, of course, and my first marathon in Japan and 2:12:27. And I'll tell you the story about even running that first 2:12. I was 24 years old. Didn't really know anything about fueling. You got to remember, I was training out in Virginia at this time. And there was no Garmin. There was no, I didn't know anything about anything high tech. Yeah. I just was like, I'm from Fresno. Like I was just like a rough kid still, I didn't really follow anything else. I was just like, I'm on my own thing just because of what I went through to get to where I was at. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm making history. Like, I don't really know any people that's done what I've done or people that look like me even doing what I do, So I was already felt like always been different. Yeah. Training in Southwest Virginia, I go over there and I'm like, my coach even said, hey, I found this race for you. Bill Rogers used to do it. Everybody criticized me and was like, no, you need to go to Chicago. You need to do this. I'm like, dude, I don't do things like you guys do. I'm different. So yeah, we ended up picking Japan, and Haile Gebrselassie was in the race when he was still racing, 2006. And, they all took off fast. There's a New Zealander that I knew from college. I was a little bit older than me, named Michael Aish. He went to Western State Division I school. I was working with him and with the older Swedish runner. I believe he was from Sweden. He might have been like 38 or 40, and I'm 24. I think Michael Aish is like 28 or 29. So we're just switching off every 2K, 2 kilometers. Everybody takes their turn. I go through the halfway point in 1:05:53. I actually bolted out. I was going to try to pick it up. And then Michael Aish was like, no. If you feel like this after 30 something K, you could, you could go. So I kept on with them. At 36K, he couldn't take his lead anymore. The Swedish runner was out at halfway. So it was just me and him. Fukuoka was cold and windy. It wasn't anything perfect. I love Japan. And by the way, it was my first time there. It was awesome. I ran into the stadium. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I thought this race was 42K. I didn't pick it up on purpose because I thought I was going to break 2:11 or run 2:11. And I was like, wait a minute, where did the time added on? I had to go one lap around the track. It was 42.2K. I didn't really know about kilometers. I just thought 42K was a marathon. So I ended up running 2:12:27. That one lap around the track, I went like 67 seconds. I got like 9th place. Top 8 was podium, got money. I didn't get any. But that was all right. Reebok was there. So that was pretty cool. It was, I was like, I'm going to run 2:08. I'm going to make the 2008 Olympics. Like it's game over. It wasn't like that. I let everything get the best of me. I think I partied like the next 5 weeks. When it was time to get on, I mean, I didn't really, what helped me was running for my team in NAIA. What helped me was the needed points. I want to do it for my team. And once it became pro, all of a sudden I got to be a pro now. I got to do pro workouts now. I thought I was just too good for everybody. And I got away from what got me good. I needed support, and I was just, that all backfired. I will leave Coach Simmons a few months later in May, saying, hey, I'm gonna, go to another, or I think I forgot how long I stayed there. I think in 2007 I left, and I started slowly heading back west, and I would end up in Colorado in 2008. Like I didn't get a PB until I was like 2012 at the Olympic Marathon Trials. I was 7th place in 2:11:53. First time breaking 2:12 finally, and since 2006. And, I didn't run 2:08. I didn't run 2:06. Nothing that I planned like worked out. About 18 months later, I'd go to Berlin and I would run 2:11:36. So yeah, it was cool, and I'd go back to Europe, in and out and all that. And I mean, I'm getting kind of confused. There's so, it's such a long career. But yeah, to fast forward even now as a master's, I stopped getting quicker right around 2016, I felt like. But then once I, knew I was going to become a master's, I started getting quicker again. I would run 2:16 as a 40-year-old at Grandma's Marathon last June. And then all of a sudden, guess what? It's time to go back to Europe, right? So at the beginning of the year, I started saying, hey, look, I don't know if I could get 2:11 anymore. I probably can't. But I said, you know what? There's these records I want to start getting. I want to start try to go for it. So the 25K, the 30K record, which is odd distances, right? Neb Kaplewski had the 30K from on his way to the 2012 Olympic trials, like when in LA, or was it 2016? I'm sorry. So yeah, he got the split and they used his split. So I started scratching my head. I said, wait a minute, you could get a record through the split. So I said, you know what? I think I got some time off work. And so I said, I got that week of February off. Which race can I go in Europe? I want to go, I want to take a vacation, I want to take my fiance. And so I ended up finding that Seville Marathon had it, and they have 5K split. So I would go to Seville earlier this year. I would take off, and I was already sweating at mile 2, running like 4:50 pace. Would go through the halfway mark in 1:04:33. Go to the 25K in 1:16:53. Break the record, break the American record, and then I would stop for 30 seconds because I was dry heaving, like I was going to throw up. And this is because I was not ready to run. I mean, I don't train like I used to train. This was like all heart. It's just because I was passionate about it, and I'm like, I didn't come here for nothing. I don't care. Like if I pass out, I'm going to go for these records. I'm going to get at least one of them. Well, I figured it's 25K, right? But see, I was so fast that I had like a minute or so cushion. So I was like, Fernando, you got 5K to go. I think I just had to break 17 minutes or something like that. But I already had wasted 45 seconds already. I get back on it. I had to break 1:34 for the 30K. I would run 1:33:48 or something like that. And I started walking because I was just like done. That was just so fast. And I'd finish the marathon. I'd start running 6-minute pace the rest of the way, and I'd run 2:20. And yeah, I was happy. It was my third Masters American record. So I have the 50K, the 30K, and the 25K. And yeah, so that brings us up to recent times now.
Yeah. That's super exciting. And I got to see you at the 25K championships where you're still top 10 at a national championship. So you're still competitive in these races, which is super cool to see, not just as a masters, but also in the field. So really cool to see that. I loved what you said earlier, and I'd like to go back to this to talk about it further, but the idea of the two wolves inside you. Now, how do you feed the good wolf, and how do you have that help you with your relationship with running?
I'll try the best I can. I know I ramble a lot, so anybody that's watching and they're keeping up this far, I really appreciate it. I want like Christmas. Yeah. Like I want to like have a family and wake up in my own home to like kids jumping on the bed. Right. And then we all as a family go and open up presents. And that's what motivates me to be who I am now. Yeah. Have a good career, have a good business, you know, and running's a lifestyle. And I know that when I run, I'm the best Fernando, I'm the best version. It just so happens that I'm still fast. Yeah. And the way I am is like I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. I want to like just do the best that I can, you know, and I can't live with myself unless I know I did my best. Yeah. I fall, but I think my friend always told me, I never knew what he understands. Sometimes we got to lose control to gain control. Sometimes it's a little taste of like, dude, you don't want to go down here this route. Right. But it's motivation of my fiance, meeting her, getting an opportunity to work for where I work for, which is a government job, and, you know, having to get drilled to even get this job, you know, by an investigator, you know, multiple times over and over and over for hours, and to be forgiven by the government and saying, Fernando, dude, you just were doing stupid self-sabotage stuff. You're not a dangerous person. You're a good person. And so that really like gave me the okay. And that's why I even talk about all this right here, you know. Everything that I've done it is forgiven, right? And, you know, try to be a Christian. I'm a Christian, and be a better Christian, and you know, my faith and stuff like that. And ultimately, like there's a lot of special moments, spiritual moments that help. And it allowed me to say, dude, I believe I'm somebody great, somebody good, somebody that's light, something that, you know, could change like people's lives and stuff like that. And so it inspires me just to be great and to be good. I don't want it just to be about being good at running. It's to be good at everything, having compassion, being empathetic, and you know, that's why I say all these stories. I tell everybody because to give hope and to let people know that, dude, you are somebody, you are special, you know. And for years, I let everybody else dictate, or let my bad thoughts dictate, like no, dude, you are a loser, you're worth nothing, you know. And yeah, that's what keeps me motivated, all these good things and all these great chances and opportunities, and to keep pushing. And obviously now, you know, I'm been, you know, have my own business, coach for 8 years, and a lot of wonderful people under me. And it just motivates me. You got to lead from the front, you know, and it's war. And it's an everyday thing. It's a lifestyle I choose every day. And running is just such a beautiful thing. And I'm just so grateful that I could do it. And grateful that I even made it this far. And I've done a lot of great things, but I'm just so capable of so much more. And this has really, like, not even just running in races, just like a little platform for me. Something that's like Mickey Mouse. It's like just something to have fun with. I'm going to do so much more better things for this world, like going forward. Like running could be like a selfish thing, and I'm all about it. Yeah, like running, and who doesn't like to win? And it's so much more to life than just a record. I don't think people understand some of these events that put on events. They're like safe havens for us, you know, a chance just to mingle with other great people, you know, recharging ourselves. Just yeah. As far as, you know, the wolves inside me. I think when I get to a race, I'm different. I change so much. I don't know if it's the good wolf or the bad wolf, but I think, you know, sometimes I think they're both in me. You know, I sometimes talk to myself, even like the the bad wolf in me, and I'll talk to him and I'll say, dude, you deserve to be happy, man. Like you deserve to be, you deserve this, you know. Um, a lot of things, happen to us when we're young, a lot of traumatic experiences that kind of shapes us, forms us, whatever. And we're all healing. Yeah. And I'm still healing. Yeah. And I'm still getting better. And yeah, I turn a little bit different in races. I'm really a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more tough. I don't really need to be dramatic with anything or need to be anybody. I just want to be Fernando and go out there, do the best you can. And real quick, I'll share a little bit how I was feeling, like even like the last month after Boston. I was the Boston Marathon Masters champion, and I went to Spokane, Washington, was the Bloomsday 12K Master champion and 25K Masters champion. By this point, I started going to my old ways as far as being hard on myself and it not being enough. And, there's once upon a time where I had to live with people or didn't even have a place to stay, and used to be like glorified. Oh, I'm a professional runner. I don't need my place. I don't want to be tied down anywhere. At the end of the day, I was in poverty for almost all my life. I cared more about saying that I was solely a professional athlete, that I didn't care that I didn't have anything or I didn't have money. I just wanted to be like known, like just as professional. Now I don't even say I'm professional. I don't even think of myself as a professional. I'm like, I like to run. I guess I'm an elite at it, but no, I don't need to run or race or anything. I don't ever have to do that again. And I was disappointed in myself because I have everything I've ever wanted. Right now, I'm working towards exactly what I want. I'm almost, my Christmas is almost there, and I am over here worried because I didn't run a minute faster, or I didn't break a national record in the 12K, and I didn't break a certain whatever at Boston. I didn't break whatever the 25K. I didn't break my own record, or I was embarrassed. Like, dude, what's wrong with you, Fernando? Like, everything you've been through and you're still over here sniveling, like, dude. So, I didn't run for about a month. I ran a few times and, I'd got my surgery and wisdom teeth and stuff like that. And so it gave me a lot of time this past month to contemplate what I want. And it was much needed. And this whole running stuff could really, in competitiveness and going after records, could really take the fun out of it. And it really, distanced me from why I even did this in the first place, and do this for structure, do this to preserve my life, my lifestyle and stuff. And so, yeah, people got to watch what they wish for and remember how blessed they are. And if you don't get that Boston Marathon time, or if you don't win that race, you just didn't win it. That doesn't mean that you're not good enough, or you're not special, I just think that you go out there and you give your all, you're a winner. Like, just to be there, and there's people right now who would die to be in your shoes. And I'm so blessed. And I am just working on saying, dude, you're enough still. And you don't need to do anything to prove anything, but still there's that competitiveness in me that is always going to try to strive. And, yeah, I'm still in my battle, but yeah, I'll be fine.
I feel really inspired by you, Fernando, and I know our audience does too, because getting to know you, Fernando, isn't just about all these accolades, but getting to know you and hearing this journey that you've been on is helping us know ourselves in a weird way, and being able to personally take on these battles within. And you gave us some really powerful advice, some life-changing advice. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Fernando, for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Well, before we get on to the world of running, just certainly massive thanks to Fernando Cabada for joining and sharing. I appreciate it. Andy already got to say thanks to him while talking to him, but I didn't. So thanks. Thank you, Cabada. You're amazing. All right. So in the world of running, we have to always begin with some shout outs to our people, to the A to Z runners who are doing the things. And Hannah, among them, ran a 9K PR.
Woo-hoo.
9K is loads of fun. That's what a wonderful thing to do. It's like 5 and change miles, about 5.5. Really good stuff. So that's fun. Well done. Good job, Hannah. Shout out as well to Andrew and Ben, who put on a 5K as race directors, and that's always much appreciated because that's definitely the hard work, and we all love running these events, but we don't all necessarily want to be the ones running them
In charge.
in the other sense.
Before 4 a.m.
Get
or
it?
whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So good. Thank you for that. And hopefully the event went swimmingly for the two of you. Jacob and Mary both ran some very strong 5Ks over the weekend as well. So congrats to both of you. Mary, first in age group.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome job. Allison ran a 5K with my team Triumph. So great work there. And thank you for that help. And Mallory ran a marathon, which we should note, we don't take credit for this because we only just started working with her. But Mallory very nearly ran a new personal best. She was 12 seconds off her PR, which, in a marathon, it's always a little bit frustrating when you get it that close because it's like, that's partial seconds per mile. So not a lot, but at the same time, that's encouraging because this was not necessarily her focus race either. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even on the schedule until last minute. And so more good things to come. Great work.
Yes, so exciting. Speaking of excitement, Bislett Games, which is the Oslo Diamond League. I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet. I feel like I've been talking about it nonstop with everybody.
That's because it was a Thursday meet.
So bizarre. Okay, yeah.
If you're listening to this on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever you're hearing this, then these races happened almost a week ago.
And I apologize to my friends who have already discussed this with at length because
what
I was
you should
so
say
excited.
to your friends, you should say, just listen to the podcast, so you don't have to hear me say it so many times.
Oh my goodness.
Well, as it goes, it was another exciting one. The Diamond League is not disappointing this year, and this just simply falls in line. So we did not have the slew of like constant world records like in Paris, but how often can that happen anyway? Instead, what we had were just some crazy exciting races and certainly very fast running. So let's talk about that. 5,000 meters for the men was, according to Let's Run.
Why do you always... Okay.
No, this is good.
Okay,
They
good.
called it a battle for the ages.
Ooh, that's catchy.
That's a quote. And it was, in fact, that. Because what you had was some of the fastest times ever and the closest finish in these kinds of times ever. So Yamif Kejelchev of Ethiopia, who is known to be quite the kicker, he can finish well. He has a number of indoor world championships gold medals because his finishing speed is just nasty. And then Jacob Kiplimo of Uganda, who is like a road king and occasionally ventures onto the track to crush everybody. Not always, but he certainly has the capacity anywhere he runs. But Jacob Kiplimo, one of the things that he has consistently demonstrated over the years is that he's not always necessarily like the fastest finisher among everyone, but he can run at like this nasty pace for a really long time in the end of the race. So he's the guy who loves to like push hard where there's still 3-4 laps to go on the track. And that is
brutal.
not fun for the kickers.
It's brutal.
Right? Well, anyway, the two of them made a show for the rest of us because it was a battle straight to the line, photo finish, to the point where even in the photo, I really don't think it's that clear that Kejelcha won this race.
Yeah.
They called it for
We had to
Kejelcha.
squint at it, and it took
You
a
gotta
while.
like magnify it 1,000 times to
Yeah.
even tell. No, so most of it's an AI feature where it creates lines
But it
for
even
you.
took
shows.
it a while to process,
Of
or they
course.
were hoping for some more
No,
dramatic.
because they have
effect.
to be careful and make sure before they call it that
Yeah.
it really truly is. But here's the thing, and this is why I say even then I'm not so sure it's that clear. So they finished at exactly the same time, right? And then in the photo you can see that they're literally crossing the line at exactly the same moment. Like all the different parts of their body are like in the same place as each other, except Yamif Kejelcha's shoulder. His right shoulder, so the photo comes predominantly from the right-hand side. His right shoulder is like tilted slightly forward, and that's his farthest forward torso position. It's not your head, it's your torso that counts crossing the line, and that shoulder gave him the victory. But if you look at the photo, Jacob Kiplimo's left shoulder is his farther forward one, but his head is blocking it, so you can't see where his shoulder exactly is in the photo, and by the angle of his shoulders there, when you look at it, it's clear that his shoulders got to be at the exact same spot as Kejelcha's, but you can't see it because his head's blocking it.
Is Kejelcha a little taller?
Yeah.
Than Kiplimo? Yeah. So do you think that makes a difference?
No. I mean, no.
No?
Not in according to the photo. Anyway, so I'm personally saying that was
Wow.
not a definitive photo.
That
I
was a
don't think it's a
tie.
clear victory. But there may have been more evidence because they have multiple angles that they may have been using also.
Okay,
They just
well.
didn't publish the whole thing. So anyway, whatever the case may be,
It's
the
close
time.
to a tie as there ever could
Yeah,
be.
and the time counts as a tie. So what you've got here now is a tie for the 5th fastest all-time 5,000 meters, and it happened in the same moment, in the same race, which has never happened before. So these guys ran 12:41, and you should know the last mile was 3:54, and the lap before the last mile was on the same pace. So their last 5 laps on the track were this nasty sub
Wow.
4 mile pace. I was talking about that Kiplimo push, from far out. He does
Yeah.
that. Well, Kajelcha wouldn't be beat. Wouldn't be beat. Okay, so there you go. That was crazy.
In the women's mile, we had 17-year-old Berke Hailem of Ethiopia, who won in a very bold race, like competing with these women who have done this for a very long time. Like she owned
She
this
took the lead
event.
at like halfway.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
just proceeded to never give it up, that's bold for sure.
Yeah, and she was rewarded for it, not only with the Diamond League victory, which is a big deal, but also a new U20 world record.
4:17.
4:17.
In a full mile at 17 years of age.
An American, Corey McGee, ran an absolutely stellar race, running 4:18. And she ran the 4th fastest time in American history.
Yep.
And she was second in this race.
That was a big one.
That's huge.
Big one. And if you look at her current progression this season, every time she's raced, she's just gotten a little bit faster, a little bit more competitive. Here she was second and gaining on Hailem, by the way, in the last 100 meters. She just was a little too far back. She couldn't catch up to her. But she was on her way. Well
That's
done, Corey
exciting for
McGee.
Corey, yeah.
She might be U.S.'s best chance at some good positive results in the 1,500 here at World Championships. So hopefully she makes the team.
Mm-hmm. And that's coming up soon, right? The
The
U.S.
US
Championships is coming up?
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, yeah.
In a couple of weeks. Cool. And third place was Jessica Hall, who ran a new Oceania and Australian record with a time of 4:18.24. Again, someone who has been progressing continuously, and it's been fun to see.
Corey McGee only narrowly beat Hull, pretty much at the line. It was impressive. Cool. Well, the women's 3,000 meters was also a showing on the these are people you should be paying attention to level of things.
Mm-hmm.
So on a kind of a quick note here, Beatrice Chibet has been on the scene for quite some time, but she's most known for her cross-country prowess. She certainly is like a force to be reckoned with in cross-country, but also has a silver medal on the track in World Championships in the 5,000. So she's certainly one to watch in any race. But in this instance in particular, she just showed her stuff with some crazy fast finishing in the end to win the Diamond League, finish in a meeting record, 8:25, over 2 of her countrywomen as well in second and third. Very strong showing. And then back in 6th place, we always got to recognize when new national records are set. Sarah Chelangat of Uganda set a new record for her country in 8:32.
Exciting stuff. Now, the men's 1,500-meter run was the race.
Well, that's
Was the
because
race that was
this
being
is in
promoted.
Norway,
Mhm.
and who else but Jakob Ingebrigtsen was, running in front of his home crowd. So of course he's like, okay, so you have to think about it. You have to think about these things in context, right? In Norway, he is probably the most famous person right now.
You think so?
I think there's a very good chance he's the most famous. Well, there's a couple of them. There's a couple track stars that are Norwegian that
Are
everybody
you talking about the
loves.
most famous runner or the most famous person?
He might be one of the most famous Norwegians because he's not just a runner. Remember, he has a reality TV show
Yeah.
that has high viewership.
Is it high? I haven't been able to
It's very popular.
research it. Okay.
So there's something to it. Anyway,
Okay.
They love him.
They love him, and this was the trademark event for the whole entire Diamond League that evening. So it was the very last run, and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, of course, was the star of the show, and he did what he usually does, which is run from the front, push in the mid, and then kick, like super strong and fast.
You got to wonder at this. Basically, everyone just lets him run the race he likes to run every time, and he always wins. And you have to think, like, wouldn't you try something different at some point? Like, just try something. Anything different to try to throw him off. Because that's why he lost world championships, if you recall, against Jake Whiteman, was because the race didn't happen exactly the way Ingebrigtsen always does it. And as a result, he wasn't quite. He didn't have it when it was someone else's game. So anyway, he won. He ran fast.
As a matter of fact,
he ran so fast. He ran the 6th fastest all-time 1,500 meters in 3:27.95, which you can count them. There are 6 people now ever who have run under 3:28. He's within striking distance of world record at this point.
That's what he was hoping for, but
there was conversation that he might go for that world record. Yeah.
He did indeed claim the European record.
Yep.
Which is no small feat in a time of 3:27.95, and there was 8 men under 3:30.
Which is there.
8.
I think there's only one other race ever that they were talking about Monaco. Maybe it was a couple years back. I don't remember exactly when this was. But this is one of the deepest 1,500-meter races of all time, not only because of how fast they ended up running, but because of how much talent was in this race. We had all the stars, basically, the current stars in this one race. Mohamed Katir of Spain, Yared Nuguse of the U.S., who is holding records now for the United States, Timothy Chariot of Kenya, who is, when he was on top of his game, nobody could beat him. And Mario Garcia, also of Spain, Azzedine Hobbs of France, who is their top miler, Ali Hoare of Australia, their top miler. So, like, what is going on in this race? Well, as it happens, all those guys, including Narve Gilje Nordas of Norway, all ran under 3:30 in a small window. They all finished at like the same time. It's crazy. It was like this crowd of people chasing after Ingebrigtsen and not able to catch him, but they were running fast. So here's what you got to know. Yared Nuguse just ran a new North American record, 3:29.02. Now, interesting scenario here. It's a North American record, but it is not a United States record. And here's why. The World Athletics Organization is the body that keeps records for regions and the world. And so they recognize things like North American, Oceania. Those records are held by World Athletics Organization. But each country, each sovereign state holds its own national records. And so officially a national record is whatever that nation recognizes, right? So in this instance, the World Athletics Organization does not recognize Bernard Lagat's 3:27 and change that he ran during the time when he was switching from Kenyan nationality to United States nationality, but he was already a U.S. citizen when he ran that time. So the United States recognizes that as the U.S. record from Lagat because he was a U.S. citizen, but World Athletics won't recognize it as a record for that country because he as a record for that area, a North American record, because he was still representing Kenya in competition. So you got to kind of figure the details, right? It's a very fascinating situation. All that to say, Yared Nuguse was granted the North American record.
And he ran fast.
And he ran
and
fast.
And a PR, of course.
And one of the fastest, so not faster than Lagat's time held in the U.S. records, but one of the fastest all-time Americans.
Yep. And that time was 3:29.02. And Yared Nuguse did write in his post like that about his North American record that he's excited, but it's complicated.
Yeah, because it is.
And that's
we just spent 2 minutes trying to explain it.
He did not explain it because he figured you all would find out in some other way.
Yeah.
But just incredible performance by him. Again, chipping away at that time in like big amounts, right? Because I think his time before this was from earlier, which was like 3:20 or 3:33.
3:30 something. It was a
Or
huge PR.
I shouldn't be guessing.
No,
but
it was a huge PR.
It's a big PR. So he just keeps lolloping. Is that a word?
That's not quite the right word, but he's doing that.
Yes.
And the reason he's doing that is because he has stepped up his level this year.
Yeah.
And so indoor showed that, and outdoors continuing it. It's just awesome. We're really hoping so Yared Nuguse was kind of promised to be like maybe the threat to challenge Ingebrigtsen. So far, he has not been able to hold up to him yet. But Nuguse has a knack for championship race performances Like he seems to really just come together and in the right moments. So I'm still,
Yeah.
especially after this, because now he shows he can really just seriously run these fast
sharpening.
times. That indoor mile wasn't a fluke, all that kind of stuff. So one more here, Ali Hoare, back in was it 7th place, still running an Oceania and Australian record. He was in 7th place, but he was only 4/10 behind Yared.
Yeah, it's a really close race.
It was a really close
Super
race.
close race.
So Ali Hoare, 3:29.41, new Australian record, very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and one other record. In 12th place, Andreas Almgren ran a new Swedish record as well.
Yeah, it was a really fast race altogether. And 3 of these guys are coached by the one and only Dathan Ritzenheim, Coach Ritz of the OAC. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. This is like this legendary race, and it's like, oh, look at that. Half of those guys are all running in the same training group. How does that happen? So Yared, Mario Garcia of Spain, and Ali Hoare of Australia, they're all part of the On Athletics Club group.
And I'll have to update you next week. I think Mario Garcia, it wasn't in the original post, but I think that I saw an update that he might have also gotten a record. But I'll have to get back to you next week.
Not a Spanish record, because Mohamed Katir has the record.
Oh, yes.
And didn't even run a PR.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know what I saw then.
I'm not sure. And I don't know what Andy's talking about.
Don't listen to me. Only listen to my official stuff.
Well, as it were, next on the list, we got to talk about the youngsters again, because they just are always being crazy. This is a name you should be familiar with by now. And if you're not, it's because you haven't been listening to anything we've been saying. No,
Harsh.
I'm kidding. So Simeon Birnbaum from South Dakota is like the current king of high school running. And for a while now, he's been a name that people have been talking about, and he's been excellent. But he kind of just basically sealed the deal all in one fell swoop in a single week. And here's why. So this season, he's been winning like all the big stuff. But this is like the Nationals period of time. They've got the Brooks PR invite. They've got the Nike Outdoor Nationals, the New Balance Outdoor Nationals. Now, you can't run New Balance and Nike because they're at the same time. So the runners pick one. In this instance, he chose Nike, which I think in particular, it seemed like for the milers, the majority of the top tier high school milers all ran Nike Outdoor Nationals this year. So it was like the deepest, most stacked high school mile race in the history of time. It's crazy. But this is what happened. Simeon Birnbaum on a Wednesday ran the Brooks PR invite, which was all high school meet, top tier again. You have to be invited to the meet based on your performances. He ran the 2 mile, not the 3,200 meters, the 2 mile, the full 2 mile, and he ran it in the second fastest ever high school time next to Lucas Verzbikis, who's not American, so it's the fastest high school American time, in 8:34.1 for 2 miles, right? Moving and grooving.
Wow.
Okay, so he won that race, Brooks PR invite. That's great. 2 days later, he ran in a pro field race in a 1,500 and finished third against the professional runners as a high schooler, right? He finishes third in 3:37.93, which is the second fastest all-time 1,500 meter run by a high schooler, second only to Hobbs Kessler. So now he's got the second fastest 2 mile. 2 days later, the second fastest 1,500, and 2 days after that, runs Nike Outdoor Nationals' most stacked mile race in the history of time for high school, and wins it in a savage last lap, 55 seconds. Outkicks this world-class high school field.
That's crazy.
For a 4:02.
5-second last lap.
This guy,
Woo!
in 6 days, just definitively demonstrated that there is no other high schooler on his level at the moment.
Okay, so what all did he win, Zach?
Everything. He won everything. So in addition to those races just mentioned, he won the Brooks PR, he won Nike Outdoor Nationals, he also won Arcadia back in this was like earlier in the spring, the Festival of Miles, and a number of indoor ones as well. So this year, 2023, this dude was unbeatable. It's crazy. So fun to watch. Great to anticipate what will come next for him as he moves on, and it's like the college scene here in the future, and we're just all hoping that he can continue that progress. It's cool. One other one here, now jumping across the pond in the Netherlands, there's this high schooler that we talk about, like all these fast Americans. We should note that this one fellow would, if he were American, hold all the U.S. high school records in like everything. This guy's so fast. So his name is Niels Laros, and he's 18 years old and just ran 3:32.89. A new Netherlands record, a Dutch record at 18 years of age, which is, not a high school record, just an overall record. Wow.
Wild.
And in addition to that, if he were American, he would hold the records in 800, 1500, and 5000. His 800 is 145. His 1500 we just mentioned, 332, and his 5000, 1323. Wow.
What?
So this is exciting. The young people are showing a future in the sport.
There's also a lot of other great races, and the girls' side is also super impressive, Zach. So.
There's lots of things. We just couldn't cover every single thing.
Right.
So
true.
we had to hit the few top headlines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, last note. We just wanted to share this very briefly because it's just everyone's been talking about it, and this is not going to be our opinion yet. At some point, we will develop and share our thorough opinions on the concept here, but training and training philosophy always has new developments, and those new developments sometimes contribute to a massive wave in change in how people approach training, or sometimes they kind of fizzle out and don't necessarily influence a lot. But this latest one has the makings of this is changing the sport in some ways, and you've heard about it, whether because we've been talking about it or others have. Some people are referring to it as the Norwegian method, which is kind of funny because it's just Jakob Ingebrigtsen and what he does, right? And so everyone's like, it's the Norwegian method, which that makes sense because also because it kind of was originated by some of the coaches a while back who happen to be Norwegian. And it's more commonly referred to as double threshold training. So what it is that they do, it's simple. They do 2 workouts in a day. Not all the time, not every single day, not every single. And it's so for their hard effort days, they'll do 2 hard efforts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon or something. And as they're doing it, they are with that meter thing doing blood lactate level testing. So it pricks your finger, takes a little bit of your blood, puts it on the strip and tests the pH balance of your blood. They're doing that throughout the workout to make sure that they're staying within the ideal levels, not going too hard, not going too easy. So training optimally, right? Now, the only thing we have to say about this right now is that there's this enormous article that you could say the father of this methodology, he's the one at least who tested it most thoroughly originally, and then other people started to learn from him. So Marius Bakken is his name, and he apparently has been getting just an onslaught of questions. Everyone's emailing him and calling him, how do we do this? We want to do this. And so he published this huge article, and it basically explains and outlines all the stuff that he did, all of his research, which is kind of crazy. He tested things 3 or 4 hard efforts in a day to just kind of see, how much can you maximize this, right? Fascinating stuff, yeah. And so lots of different things, and he kind of arrived at some conclusions. He shares his data, and he shares his recommendations and approaches. Part of the reason why this has been coming up is because he claims that he's the one who taught the Ingebrigtsen family how to train, all right? And with good reason he claims that, because they kind of learned it from him. But Jakob's dad claims he didn't, and so there's kind of this fun international tension of we didn't get it from him, we know it ourselves. I don't know. Anyway, so in principle here, the reason it's so fascinating right now is because it's this pursuit of how can we as runners train at a higher volume of a higher percent of our maximum capacity. If you look at the difference between running and cycling, and Dathan was commenting on this, by the way, in an interview some months ago we shared, other sports, they can exercise at a higher percent of their maximum capacity more often. But for running, we can't, mostly because of the musculoskeletal system limitations. We break, right? So they're trying to find ways to extend that without breaking, and this is some of the approaches that developed from that. The one thing I'll say right now, as everyone's like, we should all be doing this, I will say one clear, definitive thing, and then we won't share any other opinions yet because we want to spend more time learning about it and understanding it. But here it is. This is not an effective training approach for untrained athletes. This is not the kind of thing that's going to help somebody who is not already training at a very high level consistently. And there's a simple reason for that, because it extends and asks much of your musculoskeletal system that is only going to benefit you with your energy system, which is the reason why they do it, if you are already very well conditioned, very strong physiologically. If you're not, it's not really going to do much more for you than any other workout that you might do.
Except it's very hard.
It is very hard.
Except you're going to have a really hard time. Yeah.
So that's why Jakob says that he trains 30% harder than everyone else in the world, by the way, which is kind of just a silly thing that he said offhand.
He had another quote that was something like the mistake everyone makes is that they run too hard.
Yeah, he basically said the same thing on two different sides.
That wasn't the exact quote, guys.
Yeah,
so,
right.
But you know what I'm talking about. Many of you have seen the quote. But I think that it's true, though, that he has to take it really easy the other days surrounding it. So going too hard too often.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a good, sound World of Running segment, and we've got more to share, but we got to do it next time.
Got to do it next time, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you again to Fernando Cabada for the interview. It was amazing to hear just everything that is going on in your journey, and just congratulations on this most recent selection for Team USA coming up this fall in the 50K.
Absolutely. And for everyone else, you've got questions. We've got answers. We just got to find a way to get them in the same place. So share your questions by going to AtoZrunning.com/question, and then we'll respond to them on air next week. Or if you missed that deadline, we do it at the end of the month, every month.
We'll talk to you next time.